It's officially DC festival season, and we're super excited about this one coming up on May 18th. Africa on the Avenue is a celebration of the vibrant African immigrant community along Georgia Avenue Northwest. There's going to be interactive art installations, fashion shows, music, food, and local business stands. This one-day festival, organized by District Bridges' Lower Georgia Avenue Main Street program, truly has something for everyone. So I'll see you there on May 18th. Go to districtbridges.org to learn more.
Today on CityCast DC, I'm here with Cuneyt Dil of Axios and our very own Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. We are talking about the state of downtown, your options for Mother's Day, and some red-hot Doorman drama in one of the fanciest pieces of real estate in DC. Today is Friday, May 3rd. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Cuneyt.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Kayla.
Good morning.
All right, so Cuneyt, you yesterday went to the State of Downtown address, a red-hot annual DC address by the head of the downtown bid. I'm sure there were huge crowds at the door. I was lucky you got in, but what'd you learn there?
Well, we learned not a whole lot of new, just the fact that downtown is still hurting with office vacancies and the number of retail spaces open. Michael, I'm kind of like furrowing my brow as I'm sitting there, and I'm just thinking, this is a rehashing of what we already know. Look, there was a lot of good conversation about how you're having office to residential conversions, which look very nice on the screen when you have it rendered, and the architectural designs look snazzy, but this is a slow-moving transformation, if at all. And as I've reported, downtown offices are selling for very little, and it's going to take a lot more than just these sort of events and these conventions to really change anything about downtown.
I saw you last week at a fancy party. You were working the room. By the way, everyone, Cuneyt cleans up real nice. And the third person in our conversation was the mayor of DC. And what she said to us, more or less, was that you all, and by you all, she meant the media, spent too much time wringing your hands about downtown where there are real problems, but which obscures the success and vibrancy of DC's neighborhoods. What did you make of that critique?
Well, she said this before. She says this often, and I think she even mentions it in the context of crime and how people need to realize that crime is going to get better. It's gotten a little bit better this year, but it's still elevated. She's on the defensive, though, with the media. She faults us for reporting about office building values as reporting from the perspective of, I guess, rich developers. But then she goes around and her budget doubles down on downtown investments and literally trying to help and boost the office building owners and the economy of downtown, which she knows is what matters to getting the city's budget right. I don't understand why she gets defensive when we talk about these topics, because her budget literally funds and looks out for the commercial sector in downtown. I'm curious what you think as well, but I was thinking of that this morning as well. Her budget literally is an example why these issues for downtown and crime and offices matter.
Well, Kayla, let me throw it to you, because I think you're actually a pretty good test case here. You're a DC resident. You don't live downtown. You don't have an office downtown. I'm going to go on a limb and suspect you don't hang out downtown that much.
I really don't know.
So, you go around our neighborhoods, particularly the kind of ones closer to the core of town, the ones that are more popular with younger people, with or empty nesters for that matter. And I assume that what you know about the troubles of downtown is largely, what you hear on CityCast or read in Cuneyt's coverage. But, does that weigh on your sense of DC? What is your sense of DC right now?
Yeah, I think so. Since taking this job, I'm working from home. I really don't stray far from sort of, the northwest, northeast neighborhoods that really, I mean, they're bustling, right? Like this is where all my friends live. It's where all the places I want to go to eat are. It's where, all of the events that I go to are. I think if you stay in that little bubble, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, downtown must be dead. Like reading, a lot of like the news and like the struggles that we're hearing about downtown. It's like you're picturing sort of like this ghost town. It is a very different feeling going down there than when it was during the pandemic or right after the pandemic. And I think it feels like there's life down there now, but it's not appealing to me to go all the way down there for what? Like there's just nothing to attract me there.
But it's just, because you are also a DC voter. And so you're going to be, voting for or against these people who are doubling down in their budget on trying to fix downtown. Is it a thing that people get, that the voters appreciate that this is actually like a big deal for all of our health, even if we never hang out down there?
DC doesn't exist in certain pockets, right? Like downtown is the fuel behind what makes DC. It's where people work. It's like where a lot of, DC's taxes come from, like kind of an essential part of how the city functions as a whole. So I do think it's really important to keep in mind, when thinking about and when voting on these things, because it's not like Adams Morgan, where I live, like exists in a bubble all on its own,
Right. So it's like DC is it's as if it's a town with big factories, and that's the downtown is the factory. It produces, office work. And that means that even if your neighborhood's different, downtown might be a leading indicator of where you're headed. So I don't know, that's my sense of it. But you said they rehashed a lot of the stuff they're going to try to do to improve things. Can you rehash the rehash for us?
One thing that gets talked about a lot is how do we get tourists from the National Mall diverted or walking to downtown. So Nina Albert, who's the deputy mayor of economic development, she's a big figure of the mayor's administration in charge of getting downtown exciting again. She says, let's make a pedestrian promenade from the National Mall to downtown so we can get foot traffic, so we can create a new corridor of people. Does that sound interesting to you all?
I mean, I'm of course I'm happy to have our city separate tourists from their money and have some of the tax benefits of that flow to my children's schools and stuff like that. But I feel like that kind of, why don't they explore our city, has always been part of DC's wish list. Like we're more than just the mall. But the same, like if you go to Orlando, like I'm sure there's like nice neighborhoods and stuff, but like that's not why you're going to Orlando. You're going to Disney World, and it's no slight on their nice neighborhoods. Now, it is, I think, smart economic development to try to derive some benefit from the fact that the tourists are there going to the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, but also like 20 years from now, if DC gets its wish and there are a lot of apartments and condos and people living downtown, like would a tourist want to go into a neighborhood like that? As like at least now it's kind of like they're shopping in downtown and all these other things, but then they'll just be walking into a random neighborhood.
Which I like to do when I visit places, but I think not everyone does.
Sure.
And I think you see some tourists at like maybe Eastern Market or Union Market or like these places that are quite built up and really have the infrastructure to entertain tourists and out-of-towners. But I think downtown has a long way to go in that respect. So if you build, this walkway, like, okay, it's easy to get to, but like get to what, Well,
and I think that's the thing. Like for a lot of the years that the last 20 years or so that the district seemed to be thriving, what they used to call the new downtown, which means like the area around Farragut. Not like Penn Quarter was once the old downtown, and then the downtown in the 50s and 60s kind of moved west. Like that was like thriving too, but also like ugly and uncool, and you didn't really want to go there, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff to recommend it. That didn't stop it from being like a super economically productive part of the district, a city where so much of the tax revenue is dependent on office real estate, since we don't do commuter taxes. And maybe we just don't have the luxury anymore of having like an uncool downtown, because it's no longer, the people are just guaranteed to go there because of work.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of downtowns, work habits changing, I mean, the FBI building is huge, and one thing DC wants to do is finally like get those workers out of there so they can turn the FBI building into a new housing development, a new mixed-use development, so that they can really take a big bite out of this conversion into a more residential neighborhood. I'm trying to think, what would you... It's like the Hoover Lofts or the FBI building lofts or something. I mean,
I can't imagine.
Right.
But it speaks to like how different Pennsylvania Avenue could look if DC gets its wish to redevelop the FBI building.
Everybody knows that getting that perfect Mother's Day gift is basically impossible, but we promise Mom will love this one. The Capitol Hill Restoration Society House and Garden Tour is back this Mother's Day weekend on May 11th and May 12th. Tour 9 elaborate homes and gardens and 3 historic buildings on Capitol Hill that you can't normally enter. And if you can't make it, check out the Capitol Hill Restoration Society's other events like walking tours and monthly preservation cafes. You can buy tickets for the Mother's Day House and Garden Tour on Eventbrite, and be sure to follow CHRS on Facebook and Instagram at Capitol Hill Restoration DC.
Mom deserves the best, and there's no better place to shop for Mother's Day than Whole Foods Market. They're your destination for unbeatable savings, from premium gifts to show-stopping flowers and irresistible desserts. Start by saving 33% with Prime on all body care and candles. Then get a 15-stem bunch of tulips for just $9.99 each with Prime. Round out Mom's menu with festive rosé, irresistible berry chantilly cake, and more special treats. Come celebrate Mother's Day at Whole Foods Market.
Wait, so I got to ask you, you wrote a very funny thing this week about another, like a place that actually did pull off having people live downtown, which is City Center, DC. You know, that was once a convention center area. It was pretty dreary for a long time. They built a super upmarket retail with very expensive housing upstairs. And it seems, you know, I don't think it's my cup of tea, but it seems to have worked really well. But you wrote about a fracas there this week because residents were told they'd have a doorman, and maybe that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, when you live at City Center, which is where we're talking about, where you have the Gucci store and everything, if you can afford an apartment there, you can get a lot. You get a rooftop pool, you get proximity to downtown, and you get doormen, which is kind of rare in Washington, I suppose. You know, it's not like New York City, where this is more of a regular feature, perhaps. But the residents there were up in arms the past few weeks because the management suddenly said the doorman would be removed on one building, basically replaced with these lockers for Amazon packages and their dry cleaning instead of humans actually doing it. And the front desk would be dismantled. So like you're paying $4,500 for a 2-bedroom at City Center, and you sort of expect the best of the best, I guess. And they were all in revolt. And long story short, it turned into this, type A type of Washington lobbying situation where these tenants were even going to the Attorney General of DC and saying, look, this management company's changing our amenities, even though it's in our lease. And they had this testing meeting with the management company. Meanwhile, some of the residents are like drafting these very official looking comms memos to me about all their anger about these changes, trying to get coverage.
We were promised a doorman.
Exactly.
Well, so what, like in 2024 in DC, what are the I don't know, what's the semiotics of a doorman? Like when you see one, what is it? Does it say luxury to you? Does it say, is it a position that can be easily replaced with an Amazon locker?
One of the things was they're worried about security, so they like having the presence of a doorman. And they point it to crime stats and things like that, which, okay, maybe fair enough around the edges. There have been prominent shoplifting incidents at City Center. There was a security guard who had to fire a gun at the Chanel store. But you're dealing with people who are very type A a lot of the time. And if they're rich enough or, make enough to afford these apartments, they demand the best. And it's in their lease, I guess. So, you can predict what happened. It was a pretty concentrated revolt against their management company.
So what happened? Did the Attorney General step in? What ended up going down?
Long story short, the management company's keeping the doorman. The Attorney General's office was going to meet with the tenants. I don't know if that's actually going to happen anymore. And the tenants are going to form a tenant association that we're more used to, in apartments across the city. I mean, some people have definitely pointed out, it's not lost on me, this is sort of like a mega first world problem, right? But I guess they want what's guaranteed in their lease.
Man, I would love to get one of these doormen to tell all.
Yeah, I can't relate to that problem, but
David, thanks for chatting with me. So, you and I both have cars in the DC metro area, and sometimes they're great, but sometimes they can be a hassle. And I heard you had car issues, man.
Yes, my car, like me, is old and falling apart. And so I wanted to get it fixed. But one of the truly unpleasant tasks I find in the world is getting your car fixed, because you have to take it usually somewhere extremely distant, extremely inconvenient, arrange some alternate form of transportation. And so I heard about rota.com, and I went on the rota.com website. And they will come and pick your car up, take it from you, and then do the work and bring it back to you. And so I made an appointment on Rota, which was easy as pie, beautiful user interface, for the work that I wanted done. The valet showed up at around 10 o'clock at my house, as exactly on time. Very easy, just handed him my keys. He drove off with my car. About an hour later, April called me. She said, here are some things that we found with your car in addition to what you want to do. She sent me videos that Michael...
Wait, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm not a car nerd, so I want to know the nitty gritty of what's happening, because I don't know stuff.
1,000,000%. They sent me this video. There was a particular belt that had broken, and they sent me a video of it, and they sent me a list of sort of, here are the things that were recommended, here are the things that seemed urgent to fix, and I could choose what I wanted to fix, and sent that back to them, which took me 3 minutes. Michael, the technician, fixed it. They then texted me and said, oh, your car's on the way back. My car was back in front of my house at 2:30. I'd given it to them at 10. It was back in front of my house that afternoon. Also, note, the valet did a much better job parking in front of my house than I do.
Don't they always?
So much closer to the curb. And it was an incredibly pleasant, super easy experience. And they were very trustworthy. They were clear about what they were going to fix. And it was incredibly convenient.
Yeah, so this seems like a dream. I have used them before, but it's been a bit. Would you use them again for something like this?
I would use Rota again in a second. I would use Rota.
Amazing.
And they have a discount for us, too, for CityCast listeners. So if you go to rota.com, they have the discount code CityCast20, and you get 20% off.
Sweet. Plots, David, thank you so much for talking with me. Again, CityCast listeners, you get 20% off any Rota service, up to $100, using the code CityCast20. So go to rota.com, that's RODA.com, to book your appointment.
So Mother's Day is looming. It's a week from Sunday. So people, you have a little bit of time to plan. And Kayla, in the newsletter and right here in front of us, you can help us do that. What should we do with our moms a week from Sunday?
It's a great question. Moms are hard to get gifts for, as everybody knows. Do you guys have any go-tos for what you do on Mother's Day? Any routines, any gifts that you always get?
Yes, my go-to is thinking about it on the Friday beforehand and realizing
exactly.
that there's reservations required everywhere.
I was going to say brunch.
Brunch, yeah. I feel like brunch is definitely the big one. So let this be your reminder to go get your reservations now and not be like the rest of us. A lot of places in DC have brunch specials where, they'll have cocktails and, some sort of set menu for a certain price. So they can get quite expensive, but you definitely don't need to go all out.
Do you have to bring a mom in order to get that menu, or can you show up without your mom?
That's a technicality that they haven't specified on their site. I feel like anybody can go. It's the spirit of Mother's Day. I think that's important. But some ones that I think would be sort of a really nice classic Mother's Day brunch that they're having is Petite Cerise. It's a somewhat upscale French restaurant on Capitol Hill. More indie Le Diplomat sort of vibe. And then we have Balos, which is this new Mediterranean restaurant, very seafood forward in the DuPont area. It's very trendy right now. You really have to kind of dress up. There's a dress code. You're supposed to kind of go all out. So if you want to sort of have a fancy, morning, that could be good for you. Cafe Riggs is it's so good. It's a classic. It is a bit expensive, but if you're...
Where's that?
That's downtown. That's very gorgeous interior. If I had the money, I would take my mom there, probably.
Wait, you're supposed to pick up the check yourself?
Well, I feel like, yeah, right? Like, isn't that the whole point? But you definitely don't have to go all out. Like, I think some great options would be like getting dim sum at like A&J's in like Rockville, or going to like El Presidente for like some Mexican Tex-Mex. Like, think outside the box, but do make your reservations early.
Wait, you wrote about some stuff that's not eating either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, brunch is just the tip of the iceberg here. I think, if like DC does anything well, it's events, right? So you have all of these events that are going on Mother's Day. There's like these birding walks that you can go on. There's one at the Anacostia roller skate park and going around Anacostia Park. There's one at the Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens, which is just one of my favorite places to walk around in general. I feel like you can't go wrong. Moms just like love walks, like they love walks, they love flowers. Maybe it's just my mom, but I feel like it's a win-win,
Cuneyt, what's the Dill family go-to Mother's Day activity?
Usually I'm supposed to book a brunch restaurant and then I forget, Michael, and then so now I need to figure this out. Honestly, I'm with Kayla. A walk sounds great anytime.
Can you just show up at a florist on that Saturday or that Sunday morning, or do you got to call them in advance too?
You can if you want to fight.
Maybe I wouldn't recommend that.
Another event that I'm actually really excited for, that I will probably be trying to do, is this Mother's Day house and garden tour on Capitol Hill. It's like you can go into all these private residences and gardens and kind of just like snoop around and explore these like really cool places on Capitol Hill that you would just never be able to get into otherwise. And it's $40, unfortunately, but lucky for you guys, we're actually doing a CityCast DC membership giveaway for it. So you can actually win a pair of tickets for you and your mom, or whoever you want. And one pair will go to a random existing CityCast DC member. And then the other pair will go to the 5th person to sign up for our membership program. So definitely sign up for the membership program. If you win it, then you're getting all your money back immediately, essentially. So the website for membership is membership.citycast.fm, and it's super cheap. You get ad-free listening to the podcast. You get early access to events. We'll love you forever. All sorts of fun things. I highly recommend.
Kayla, is your mom a CityCast member?
Gosh, you know what? I have to talk to her about that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you should talk to her about that before you decide to spring for brunch.
I know. She better be, honestly.
Well, Kayla's mom, if you're listening, you know what to do. And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Michael.
Hey, great to be on.
And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our interim executive producers are Julia Karen and Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. Kayla also writes our super informative and fun newsletter, Hey DC. Our interim producer is Ash Durbin, and our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.